when I was younger, I would look at the guys on YouTube, on Instagram. They had these big businesses. They had amazing physiques. They lived wherever they wanted to, and they were just super dialed. They were super locked in. It felt like nothing in their life was wrong, or they didn't have any problems. I would then compare that to my life at the time and go, huh, I feel like my life is nothing like theirs. But I had these big goals and I'd set these big dreams as well. But I just couldn't stay consistent enough to get them. I would I knew what I needed to do. Like I knew that obviously if I wanted to grow bigger shoulders, if I wanted to get abs, if I wanted to stop being the skinny, insecure kid, that I needed to train well, that I needed to be consistent, and that I needed to eat well. I knew if I wanted to build a business online, that I needed to learn skills, that I needed to implement them, that I needed to take risks, but knowing it wasn't the problem, it was doing it. I would make promises to myself, like I'm going to wake up at this time tomorrow, and I would not do it. And I would always just fall short of what I knew that I needed to do. I would be consistent for 5 days in the gym and really, take a good crack at the physique, at the body that I really wanted more than I could breathe. But then consistently, I would still go out every single weekend. And I would party, and I would drink, and I would do drugs, and I would not eat. And I would basically throw all of that consistency away. And it just left me in this period, this thought process, this cycle of me basically not believing in myself. Of me feeling like those guys on the YouTube screen are special. Which is completely incorrect. There was a pretty dramatic moment in my life that made me realize this. And this is part of the reason why I wanted to make this video, so that you don't have to go through the same or get to the point that I had to get to actually realize this. For me, I actually had to get my appendix removed. I remember it was on New Year's Eve 2023. I was actually in the gym because I had a New Year's Day party the next day at my parents' house. And I remember I had to cut my gym session short on New Year's Eve because the pain was so excruciating that I literally had to go home and I had to lay down and I had to rest. Fast forward to the next day, I started drinking, and funnily enough, the more drinks that I had, the less pain that I felt. And the more drinks that I had, the less pain that I felt. And it carried on into the late night and early morning of the next day. The next day, we went out on the boat, kept drinking, no pain, until the following day, which was the 3rd of January 2023. I was in so much pain, literally laying on my parents' couch in fetal position, unable to move, until my dad took me to the doctor, and the doctor said, "You need to go to the hospital. I'm not sure what's wrong with you, but I really recommend it." And I remember sitting there saying to my dad, I was 1 week into my 2 weeks of a year holiday as an electrician. I said to my dad, I'm not going to the hospital. I'm only 1 week into my 2 weeks holiday. I'll just have some Panadol and I'll suck it up. And I remember vividly, my dad said to me, "Cody, we're going to the hospital." In hindsight, I'm glad that we did, because I got there, and after them doing all the checks, they realized that my appendix was moments away from rupturing, and I had to be rushed into surgery. And I remember waking up the next day and is in a hospital bed, could barely move, super sore. And like that, everything that I loved was stripped away from me. I couldn't work for 2 weeks. I couldn't train for 2 weeks. I basically couldn't do anything. The doctor literally told me that a good exercise that I should be doing is picking my phone up and putting my phone back down. I could barely believe that he just said that to me. And so all of a sudden, the only thing I knew, which was work and train, was taken away from me. And it was this moment in time in my life, and I reflect back on it now, that basically changed everything. I'd just moved out of my parents' house for the first time. My roommate was my apprentice and best friend. I'd just gone through a breakup, so my heart was broken. And how I would numb these things, how I would band-aid these things, was I would go out and I would party and I would socialize. But what having that stripped away from me did was it gave me solitude for arguably the first time in my life. And what that solitude taught me was that I had a lot to work on. That I was nowhere near the persona that I'd created, who I thought that I wanted to be, the version that I was showing the world. I realized that I actually couldn't socialize, that I was relying on alcohol to do that. I realized that I couldn't look people in the eye. Like I just genuinely didn't have the internal confidence and ability to do that. I realized that I didn't spend time by myself. I genuinely, even if I was going to the shops or, going anywhere, I needed to take a friend with me. That's a scary place to be and an uncomfortable place to be. So, by myself every day, sitting with my thoughts, which is somewhere that I'm not comfortable to be, just gone through a heartbreak, no one to talk to. And I remember there was two options for me to take there. It was either feel sorry for myself or do something about it. And I'm so grateful that that version of me decided to do something about it. I remember feeling in my stomach, just deep in my core, this fire lit up. And I thought to myself, this is going to be the greatest comeback of all comebacks. Watch me. And I got this fire light up. And I realized that there was a few things that needed to change. I needed a routine, and I just unlocked my mission. My mission was that the comeback. Watch me. I'm going to prove everyone wrong. I'm going to prove it to myself. I'm going to prove it to my ex. I'm going to prove it to anyone who doubts me. That was enough of a why for me to lock in. Then I had to build a routine around all the areas that I fell short. So for me, that looked quite extreme. And a lot of people thought that it was unrealistic. So I woke up I was a tradie at the time, right? So I started work early, and I never knew what time I was actually finishing. So I started work around 7:30, and I could finish some nights at 8 p.m., right? So if I wanted to be consistent in my goals, I needed to go to the gym in the morning. I'm a morning person. I operate creatively. I operate effectively in the morning. So I had to build my routine around that, because I knew if I left it till the afternoon and I procrastinated like I did a million times before, that it would not get done. So if I was serious, I had to wake up, and in order to wake up, do my things that I needed to do in the morning, train before work, that time had to be quite early. So I would wake up around 3:45 to 4 a.m. every day. One, I knew that I was going to be able to tick my goals off and be consistent if I did that. And two, I like to win. I like to feel good. And waking up before the world is awake, whilst it's still still, whilst it's still dark, when no cars are out, when no lights are on, when no one else is awake, makes me feel amazing. It makes me feel like I can conquer. It makes me feel creative. It makes me feel alive. And so I played into my strengths. Now, instantly, I knew that I was not good at choosing the hard route. I would always take the comfortable route. And so I needed to squeeze myself and basically train myself to take the hard route, to take the path of most resistance. Because I started to realize that that is where the growth is. That is where these guys that I watched online, they've just done more hard things than I have. They're no different than me. They just got more uncomfortable. So in order to train myself to do that, in order to take the hard route, I started to have a cold shower as soon as I woke up at 3:45 to 4 a.m. And I knew, like I said, I was not comfortable in my own presence. I was not comfortable in my own brain. I realized that there was so many areas that I needed to work on. There was so many areas that I'd sort of tucked under the rug and that I didn't actually know myself. So in order to fix that, I started to meditate, to dive into the stillness head first, and more importantly, I started to journal. Journaling has genuinely changed my life. Getting what's out of here onto paper, it has been one of, if not the most beneficial habits and things that I've ever pursued in my life. So taking this morning routine, taking this structure that I built, paired with the fire, the mission inside of me, it allowed me to just go all in. And there was a main point that I learnt through all of this journey. Because remember, I was out for 2 months. I was out for 8 weeks. I couldn't train, I couldn't work, I couldn't do anything. I was at home just by myself. So I started to do this morning routine, but I couldn't train yet. But what I learnt through the whole experience, I already had a head start. It wasn't about what I could add to my life to get locked in, to get dialed, to build an unbreakable mindset. I first had to subtract. I had to get rid of my vices. I had to get rid of the things that were bringing me back down. And so for me, that was drinking. That was going out. That was relying on alcohol for confidence. That was doing drugs every weekend. That was gambling. That was wasting my money. And so throughout this whole experience, my biggest lesson was that it's not what can I add to be dialed? What can I add to my life to achieve these goals? What can I add into my routine to be like these guys that I watch on YouTube who are dialed, who have the physique I want, who have the life I want, who have the business that I want? It's what do I need to subtract? What do I need to eliminate from what I'm doing right now? What is actually holding me back? And so I want to leave you with the system that I used and still use to this day to do exactly that. There's a method to the madness. And I want you to understand each step of the method so that you can actually go away and actually do this. Now, you can pause this video and go and get a pen and paper or your phone notes or something, and I genuinely want you to execute on this. Like, I don't want to make this video just for you to watch and get this, wave of motivation and then do nothing about it. I genuinely want to help you, and I'm telling you this story, this vulnerable story of mine, to hopefully inspire you to take action. So let's go through the steps. The first is awareness. You're already in this stage. You're already aware that you want to be locked in. You're already aware that you have goals bigger than everyone around you. So you've already ticked this off. But I want to go one step deeper. And what it looked like for me was I wrote down every single one of my habits that I repeated. So, I woke up at a certain time, I trained, what was I eating, what was I doing every weekend, was I drinking, I was vaping. I literally wrote down everything that I would do. Then next to the habit, I would write whether it was bad or whether it was good. So you've got a whole list of your habits, and then next to that list, you write whether it's a bad habit or a good habit. Next, the next phase is understanding. So understand why that habit is good or bad. So for example, if you wrote, I procrastinate and I scroll on my phone, obviously you would write bad next to that habit. Going deeper to this, why do you think that is bad? So you would write next to it, this is a bad habit because it's sucking away the energy and the creativity that I have that I could be using towards my goals, and it's wasting my time because I get sucked in this infinite scroll and I end up spending 3 or 4 hours there on the couch when I could be using that to do something pushing me towards my goals rather than taking me away from it. That is getting an understanding, a level deeper to just labeling it a bad habit. So do that next to all of your good and bad habits. This is you going deep, and this is what it requires. So you've got awareness, understanding, then we replace. This is the thing about habits, is that you can't just stop them, or it's very hard to just stop them. Willpower lets us down time and time again, and this is why we build systems and structures around our goals. But to just stop a habit is extremely hard. The best thing that you can do is replace it. So let me give you an example. The phone, let's keep it on trend. You doom scroll and you waste your time on social media. Instead of just stopping that and being completely bored, what can you do that's productive? Maybe you could invest your money into a course and learn towards the business that you want to build. Maybe you could use the time to read a book that's aligned with a skill that you want to develop. You could spend the time researching gym videos and learning more about nutrition because you want to bulk up and you want to put muscle on and you're struggling with that and you don't understand it enough. Maybe you could spend the time writing and getting creative or creating your own content. See how there's still the time block there. You can't just eliminate it. You need to replace it. So what I want you to do with the list of your bad habits, I want you to write next to it something productive that you could replace that bad habit with, that you are going to replace that bad habit with. So now we understand all of our habits, we're aware of them. We've gone to a deeper level on why they're bad or why they're good and whether they're serving us or not. Now we've gone through and you've written down what you're going to do to replace those bad habits with a good habit that's actually pushing you towards your goal. And the final step is repeat. All you need to do is take consistent action towards these new good habits. And there's going to be times that you fall off. There's going to be struggle. It's going to be difficult. This is why it matters so much about your why, about the fire that's inside of you. And willpower is always going to let you down. Your system, your structure, the routine that you've built around this why, around this fire, is so, so important. But when you have this in place and you follow what I've documented in this video, I guarantee you that you will understand how to stay locked in every day of the year. And if you do this consistently, I can guarantee you that you will build an unbreakable mindset that no one can penetrate, that nothing can penetrate. And you will start to take steps every single day towards the man that you want to be, towards the man that you were made to be. And that's my hope for you from watching this video.